guys, it's Isha back here with another video, and today I will be talking about Alzheimer's and how it's influenced by music. First, I'll explain what Alzheimer's is. I'll talk about how the disease progresses, what the stages are, and what the physical complications look like in Alzheimer's patients. Then I'll go on to talk about how music will have positive effects in Alzheimer's patients and their retrieval skills. First off, what is Alzheimer's? Alzheimer's is a type of dementia that causes problems with memory, thinking, and behavior. Symptoms, they usually develop slowly, but they worsen over time, and then they eventually become severe enough to interfere with daily tasks. Alzheimer's is the most common type of dementia. It accounts for 60 to 80% of dementia cases, and the majority of people that have Alzheimer's are 65 or older. But if you do develop Alzheimer's before you're 65, it's called early onset Alzheimer's. In the early stages, memory loss is mild, but by the time they get to late stages, individuals lose the ability to hold conversation and respond to their environment. It's the sixth leading cause of death in the United States, and after diagnosis, average years of life is 4 to 8 years. So of course, memory is a key loss symptom, and it usually has 3 stages. You got mild Alzheimer's disease, moderate, and then severe. Mild, you seem to be healthy most of the time. Basically, you have trouble making sense of the world around you. You're typically diagnosed, and just symptoms that are included in this are memory loss, poor judgment leading to bad decisions, sense of initiative, spontaneity, and you take a little longer to complete the regular daily tasks. You wander, you get lost, and you have personality and mood changes. Moderate Alzheimer's, you basically need more intensive care. The symptoms for this include increased memory loss and confusion, and the inability of you to learn new things. You have difficulty with language and problems with reading, writing, and working with numbers. Your thinking and thoughts are disorganized, and you have a very short attention span. Basically, carrying out multi-step tasks, such as getting dressed, showering, you're going to have difficulty with. Now to the severe stage of Alzheimer's. In this stage of Alzheimer's, you need around-the-clock, 24/7 hour care. You can't really communicate, and you're completely dependent on others. And towards the end of the disease, patients might be in their bed most of the time, and their body just shuts down. Signs for this include inability to communicate, you lose a lot of weight, you could have seizures, skin infections from laying in bed all day, difficulty swallowing, increased sleep, and loss of bladder control. And death amongst Alzheimer's patients in the late stages usually are aspiration pneumonia, basically when you can't swallow properly and you're ingesting your food into your lungs instead of air into your lungs, and you choke and die basically on your food. Now to my question. How can music regenerate the neurons of retrieval, and what is the impact it has on Alzheimer's patients? So basically, the parts of your brain that are affected when you have Alzheimer's, it starts with the hippocampal region, and it makes way to your parietal and temporal lobes. Alzheimer's is the buildup of plaque, which the plaque can be amyloid or glucose hypometabolism. There's also some other options, but those are the two main plaque buildup. Musical memory is found to be independent of other memory systems, and it's found in the temporal lobe, but Alzheimer's is spared in that region. Basically, it's found in the bilateral temporal lobe lesion. Case studies are mostly where the research is done, but it's very unclear what circumstances preserve that region of the brain. Musical memory appears to be the lowest in gray matter areas and hypometabolism values in the brain. Even though the temporal lobes are affected in Alzheimer's disease, the musical memory is spared. Even though memories are stored in the temporal lobe, the bilateral temporal lobe lesion is the main area of the musical memories. They're to be affected later in this stage of severe Alzheimer's, but retrieval shows to be from the anterior cingulate gyrus and the ventral pre-supplementary motor areas. And damage in research are spared from those areas. Now that we know what areas of the brain are affected by Alzheimer's, and we also know what areas of the brain store your memories and your musical memories, we're going to talk about more of like studies. Now that we know that, we're going to talk about the different studies. The first study we're going to look at is how music can increase food consumption in Alzheimer's patients. So we all know that Alzheimer's patients have difficulty with food consumption. Participants in this study, they participated in a musical and memory enhancement program that was 3 months long, and your treatment was basically 1 week on with music and 1 week off with music. Participants in this study created their own playlists. For the week that they were listening to music, they would listen to music pre-supper. So they would listen to it before supper to see if it would affect them during supper or after supper. Results showed that music did enhance swallowing mechanisms. They also decreased choking while meals were going on. It improved nutritional statuses amongst the residents. It reduced weight loss. It reduced the need of speech intervention, and it also improved the quality of those patients' lives. The average intake during the week that they were getting the music in memory program was about 71.4%. And the week that they weren't getting the treatment or the program wasn't going on, average intake of food was around 41.4%. So it was a significant decrease. They wanted a way of reconnection to the world through musical triggered memories. Another study looked at how a music program at a residence, Alzheimer's residence, increased the quality of life. In the program, they had live musical performances, they had food sensory stimulations, they had like a monthly barbecue with music, they had this quiet room / a sensory room, they had pet therapy, Zumba classes, and so much more. So they split the year into 4 quarters. Basically, if you think about it, seasons, or you could think about it like January through March, April through June, July through August, and September through December, I think. Like those are the month breakdowns. So they looked at the last quarter from 2014 to the last quarter of 2016. In total, that's 9 quarters. Throughout those 9 quarters, residents' participation increased in these programs. They also decreased the use of psychotic medication from 30% of residents using to 22% of residents using. They also had a decrease in residents that fell from 12% of residents to 4% of residents. Also, residents that were in physical altercations also decreased from 7% of residents to 0% of residents, which is a great number. Basically, the quality in life improved in this residence, this Alzheimer's residence, with this music program. To wrap this up, music, there's multiple more studies that I will talk about in my paper, of course, but music does have a benefit to Alzheimer's patients. The Alzheimer's Association has also mentioned multiple articles on their website that shows music does enhance life of Alzheimer's patients. So music is shown to reduce agitation, improve behavioral issues within the middle stages, and also in some of the late stages, it shows that patients are able to sing along to songs, tap to beats from like a childhood song. The Alzheimer's Association gives you a list of how to choose songs and how to create the mood. So first you want to choose a familiar song, you want to choose enjoyable music, and if the person with Alzheimer's can choose their own music, you want to allow them to do it. You want to have a station with no commercials, a source with no commercials, of course, because it will create confusion. The music will create the mood, so you want mellow music to calm them down, or you want upbeat to make them happier and to boost the mood. You also want to encourage movement, like clapping and dancing, to excite them. You want to cut off any distractions, no other sounds. You want to close the doors, close the windows. Basically, don't play it too loud either, because you don't want a sensory overload of everything, because then they won't focus and they'll get confused, and that will increase their aggravation. What's really cool about the Alzheimer's Association, they partnered with 10 artists and they made an album of 10 songs that were either unreleased or new to the artist, but those songs did have a personal, emotional connection with a story behind them, basically to evoke that it's something important that they don't want to lose. Music can hold a special place in your heart, and how it could be there forever, even after you lose your memory. All right, thank you for listening. Thanks, guys.